Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Horizon and watched the stars drift past the main viewing screen. His crew had been out here for 3 months now, mapping new star systems and looking for planets that humans might one day call home. It was quiet work, mostly boring, but Jake loved being out here among the stars where everything felt possible. Chief Engineer Lisa Parker was down in the engine room checking the power systems for the 3rd time that day. She always worried about the engines when they were this far from home. If something went wrong out here, help was weeks away at best. Navigator Ben Collins sat at his station updating star charts and plotting their next course. They had 2 more systems to survey before heading back to Earth. The ship's communication. Officer Helen Brooks was monitoring the long-range sensors when something strange appeared on her screen. She frowned and adjusted the controls, thinking it might be an equipment problem. The signal was weak and came from a direction where no ships should be. She checked her instruments again, but the signal was still there. "Captain Morrison, I'm picking up something odd," Helen said, turning to face Jake. "It looks like a distress signal, but it's coming from empty space. Our charts show nothing in that area." Jake walked over to Helen's station and looked at the readings. The signal was definitely there, fading in and out like something was wrong with whoever was sending it. "How far away?" he asked. "About 6 hours at full speed," Helen replied. "But sir, this doesn't match any human ship signatures I know." Jake felt his heart speed up a little. In all his years of space travel, he had never encountered anything that wasn't human-made. Earth scientists had always wondered if there was other intelligent life out there, but so far humans had found nothing but empty planets and dead rocks. "Ben, plot a course to that signal," Jake ordered. "Lisa, I need maximum speed from the engines." Lisa's voice came over the ship's communication system from the engine room. "You got it, Captain. Engines are running perfect. We can maintain full speed for as long as you need." The New Horizon changed course and headed toward the mysterious signal. Jake called his senior staff to the bridge. Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the ship's expert on alien life, arrived first. She was excited about the possibility of finally encountering something non-human. Security Chief Rick Adams came next, his hand resting on his weapon as always. Medical Officer Dr. Kate Sullivan joined them, carrying her medical kit in case someone needed help. As they got closer to the signal source, their sensors began picking up something massive ahead. It was definitely a ship, but unlike anything humans had ever built. The design was smooth and curved, made of what looked like crystal or glass. Strange lights pulsed along its hull in patterns that seemed almost alive. "My God," Amy whispered as the alien ship appeared on the main screen. "It's beautiful." The ship was easily 3 times larger than the New Horizon, but it was clearly in trouble. Sections of the hull showed damage and the strange lights were flickering weakly. No engines were running and the ship drifted helplessly through space. "Helen, try to contact them," Jake ordered. His mouth was dry and his hands were shaking slightly. This was the moment humans had dreamed about for centuries. Helen worked at her station, trying different frequencies and signal types. After several minutes, she managed to establish contact. The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything they had ever heard. It was musical and soft, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The universal translator that all Earth ships carried began working on the alien language. Slowly, words started to make sense. "Please help us," the voice said. "We are dying, our ship is broken, and we cannot fix it." Jake took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth ship, New Horizon. We received your distress call. What kind of help do you need?" There was a pause, then the alien voice returned. "You are not Veltar. What species are you?" "We have never encountered your kind before. We are humans from the planet Earth," Jake replied. "We want to help you if we can." The alien ship's airlocks opened and a small shuttle emerged. It was just as beautiful as the main ship, glowing with soft light. Jake ordered his crew to prepare the shuttle bay to receive their visitors. When the alien shuttle landed in the New Horizons bay, Jake and his team were waiting. The shuttle door opened with a sound like singing crystal and 3 beings stepped out. They were tall and thin, much taller than humans, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Their faces were gentle and their large eyes held intelligence and sadness. The leader of the aliens stepped forward and spoke through a small device that translated his words. I am Prime Navigator Zethkal of the Veltar people. We are grateful that you answered our call for help. Jake introduced himself and his crew. Amy was fascinated by the aliens' appearance and asked permission to scan them with her instruments. Kate offered medical assistance if any of the aliens were injured. Rick remained alert but tried not to appear threatening. Zethkal explained their situation. His ship carried 300 Veltar who were traveling between star systems when they were attacked by space pirates. The attack had damaged their ship's power core, the heart of their vessel that provided everything they needed to survive. Without it, his people would die within days. The power core provides special radiation that our bodies need to live, Zethkal said sadly. Without it, we will fade away like flowers without sunlight. Amy ran her scans and confirmed what Zethkal had said. The Veltar biology required a specific type of energy that their damaged ship could no longer provide. She estimated they had maybe a week before the aliens would start dying. Jake looked at his crew and saw the same thought in all their eyes. They had to help these people, even though they had no idea how. The Veltar technology was completely different from human engineering. It would be like trying to fix a computer with Stone Age tools. But as Jake watched Zethkal's glowing face and saw the hope in those large alien eyes, he knew there was only one choice to make. Somehow they would find a way to save these people, no matter what it cost. Jake Morrison gathered his senior staff in the New Horizons main conference room after the Veltar delegation returned to their ship. The weight of what they had learned sat heavy on everyone's shoulders. 300 alien lives depended on decisions that would be made in the next few hours. All right, people, let's hear options, Jake said, looking around the table at his crew. Amy, what did your scans tell you about their technology? Dr. Amy Rodriguez pulled up her data on the room's main screen. Their power systems are completely different from ours, Captain. They use something they call quantum crystalline matrices that generate the specific radiation their bodies need. It's like nothing we've ever seen. Chief Engineer Lisa Parker studied the readings with a frown. I've been looking at this data for 2 hours and I can barely understand how their systems work. It's not just advanced, it's a completely different approach to power generation. Security Chief Rick Adams shifted in his chair. Captain, I have to ask the hard question here. We're talking about risking our ship and crew for aliens we just met. What if this is some kind of trap? Jake had been expecting this question. Rick was a good man, but his job was to protect the crew, which sometimes meant being suspicious of strangers. What does your gut tell you, Rick? Honestly? They seemed genuine. The fear in that alien's eyes when he talked about his people dying, that felt real to me, Rick replied. But I still have to think about our people first. Dr. Kate Sullivan spoke, up from across the table. I've been reviewing the medical data Amy collected. These beings are definitely dying. Their cellular structure is breaking down without that specific radiation. It's like watching someone slowly suffocate. Navigator Ben Collins had been quiet during most of the discussion, but now he cleared his throat. I've been running calculations on our power reserves. If we try to help them, we're going to use up most of our energy getting back home. We might not make it to the nearest Earth outpost. The room fell silent as everyone considered what Ben had just said. They were talking about possibly stranding themselves in deep space to save aliens they had never seen before today. Jake looked at each face around the table and saw the same struggle in their eyes. Helen Brooks, the communications officer, spoke first. I've been talking to them for the past hour, learning their language. They're traders, peaceful people who travel between stars sharing knowledge and goods. They've never hurt anyone. That doesn't change the fact that helping them could kill us all, Rick pointed out, though his voice was gentler now. Lisa Parker suddenly sat up straighter. Wait, maybe there's a way. What if we don't try to fix their quantum crystals? What? If we jury-rig our own power systems to generate something close to what they need? Amy looked at the engineering data with new interest. It would be incredibly dangerous. We'd be mixing technologies that were never meant to work together. How dangerous? Jake asked. Worst case? Both ships could explode, Lisa answered honestly. Best case? We managed to keep them alive long enough to get their main systems working again. Jake stood up and walked to the viewing port that looked out at the damaged Veltar ship. He could see lights moving inside the crystalline hull, probably. Aliens going about their daily lives, not knowing that death was slowly approaching them. How long would the repairs take? He asked without turning around. If we work around the clock, maybe 3 weeks, Lisa replied. That's assuming everything goes perfectly, which it probably won't. And our power reserves? Ben Collins consulted his navigation computer. We'd have enough to limp back to the nearest human outpost, but just barely, no room for mistakes or delays. Jake turned back to his crew. These were good people, all of them. They had families back on Earth, dreams and plans for the future. He had no right to risk their lives for strangers. But he also couldn't stand by and watch 300 intelligent beings die when there was even a small chance of saving them. I'm not going to order anyone to do this, Jake said finally. This has to be a choice each of you makes. If we do this thing, we're all in it together. If we don't, we send a message to Earth Command and wait for a proper rescue mission. How long would that take? Kate asked. 4 to 6 months, Ben answered. They'd be dead long before help arrived. Amy Rodriguez was the first to speak. I didn't become a xenobiologist to watch the first aliens humanity ever met die in front of me. I'm in, Lisa Parker nodded. I've been an engineer for 20 years. I've never backed down from a challenge yet. Let's save these people, Helen Brooks smiled. I want to learn more about their culture. Can't do that if they're dead. Count me in. Kate Sullivan was next. I took an oath to help the sick and injured, no matter who they are. That includes aliens. Rick Adams was quiet for a long moment, then sighed. I think you're all crazy, but I've never let my crew down before. I'm not starting now, Ben Collins grinned. Someone has to navigate us home after this insane plan works. Might as well be me. And Jake felt pride swell in his chest. His crew was amazing, every one of them. All right then. Lisa, start working on adapting our power systems. Amy, I need you to learn everything you can about Veltar biology. Helen, keep talking to them. Learn their language better. We're going to need all the communication we can get. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of Jake's life. Lisa and her engineering team worked 18-hour days, rebuilding sections of both ships to create a power-sharing network that shouldn't have been possible. The human and Veltar technologies fought each other at every step Amy worked with. Veltar healers, learning about their biology while sharing human medical knowledge. She was amazed to discover that the Veltar had never encountered a species willing to risk their own survival for strangers. Helen spent hours each day talking to the Veltar, learning their musical language and their culture. She discovered they were explorers and traders who had been traveling the galaxy for thousands of years, spreading knowledge and beauty wherever they went. Rick organized guard shifts and made sure both crews had enough food and supplies. He was surprised to find himself liking the gentle aliens, who seemed genuinely grateful for human help and never asked for more than was offered. Kate worked with Veltar healers to monitor the health of both crews during the dangerous repair process. Several humans were injured when power couplings exploded, and she treated them alongside Veltar who had been weakened by their failing life support. Ben kept calculating and recalculating their power reserves, finding ways to squeeze every bit of efficiency from their systems. The numbers were tight, maybe too tight, but he refused to give up through it all. Jake watched his crew push themselves beyond their limits for people they had known for less than a month. When the Veltar ship's lights finally blazed back to life at full strength, Jake felt tears running down his face. Prime Navigator Zethkal came aboard the New Horizon with gifts for the human crew. Rare crystals that sparkled with inner light. Star charts showing systems no human had ever seen, and most precious of all, the friendship of an entire species. As the Veltar ship prepared to leave, Jake knew his crew had changed something fundamental about humanity's place in the galaxy, even if they didn't understand it yet. The New Horizon limped back to the nearest human outpost with power reserves running dangerously low. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the space station grow larger on the main screen, knowing that his career was probably over. Behind his crew worked quietly at their stations, each of them understanding that they would face serious questions about what had happened in deep space. Admiral Frank Watson was waiting for them at Port Meridian Station. Jake had served under Watson years ago and knew the man to be fair but strict when it came to following regulations. Unauthorized first contact with alien species was about as serious as military infractions got. The debriefing lasted for 3 days. Jake and his crew sat in a sterile conference room answering the same questions over and over. Why had they risked their ship and crew for unknown aliens? Why hadn't they contacted Earth Command first? Did they understand the potential consequences of their actions? Jake answered honestly every time. His crew had encountered beings in distress, and they had chosen to help. It was that simple. The fact that those beings happened to be aliens didn't change the basic human obligation to help others when possible. Admiral Watson listened to the testimony with a stone face that revealed nothing about his thoughts. The Veltar crystal gifts and star charts were confiscated for study. Old data about the encounter was classified at the highest levels. Officially, first contact with the Veltar had never happened. Captain Morrison, Admiral Watson said on the final day of the inquiry, you and your crew violated multiple regulations and put your ship at unnecessary risk. However, I find no evidence of criminal negligence or deliberate misconduct. You will all receive formal reprimands in your files, but no court-martial proceedings will be initiated. Jake felt relieved but also frustrated. What about the Veltar? Admiral, they're out there and they know about humanity now. Shouldn't we be trying to establish diplomatic relations? That decision is above both our pay grades, Captain, Watson replied coldly. For now, this incident is classified and will remain so until the Colonial Council decides how to proceed. The crew of the New Horizon scattered to different assignments. After the inquiry, Jake was given command of a supply transport, essentially a punishment posting that would keep him far from any exploration missions. He accepted the assignment without complaint, knowing he was lucky to still have a career at all. Lisa Parker requested a transfer to civilian engineering and found work designing transport ships for colonial settlements. Her experience with alien technology integration was wasted in the civilian sector, but she found some satisfaction in building vessels that would carry families to new homes among the stars. Dr. Amy Rodriguez returned to the Colonial Science Institute where she threw herself into xenobiology research. Her requests to study the classified Veltar data were repeatedly denied, leaving her to wonder what humanity might learn from the gentle aliens they had saved. She published papers on theoretical alien biology, always careful not to mention her real experience. Helen Brooks took a teaching position at the Colonial Academy, training new communications officers in first contact protocols. She kept the Veltar language programs she had developed, hoping someday they might prove useful again. Her students never knew that their professor had actually spoken with aliens. Security Chief Rick Adams was reassigned to station security duty, a quiet posting that suited him well enough. He had grown tired of the dangerous uncertainty of deep space exploration. Dr. Kate Sullivan continued her medical career, but she often thought about the Veltar healers and their different approach to medicine. Navigator Ben Collins found work with a commercial shipping company, plotting courses for cargo haulers between the established colonies. The work was routine and paid well, but he missed the excitement of exploring unknown systems. Jake returned to his family's farm on New Columbia, a peaceful agricultural world where his wife Maria had been waiting for him. She had supported his decision to help the aliens, even knowing it might end his military career. Their farm grew well in the colony's rich soil, and Jake found some peace in the simple work of planting and harvesting. But late at night, Jake would often stand outside his farmhouse and look up at the stars, wondering about the Veltar. Were they still traveling between distant suns, trading knowledge and beauty with other species? Did they remember the humans who had risked everything to save them? Had humanity made a good impression on their first galactic neighbors? Maria would sometimes find him out there, lost in thought about what might have been. "Do you regret it?" she asked one night, joining him under the star-filled sky. "Never," Jake replied without hesitation. "Those people were dying and we could help them. That's all that mattered." "Even though it cost you your career?" Jake considered the question. Seriously. He had loved commanding a starship and exploring the unknown reaches of space. Being grounded on a farm, even a beautiful one like theirs, felt like a kind of prison sometimes. But when he remembered Zethkal's glowing face and the relief in those large alien eyes when their ship's power came back online, he knew he would make the same choice again. "My career was just a job, Maria. Those were people's lives." 2 years passed quietly on New Columbia. Jake learned to enjoy farming and the simple pleasure of watching things grow. He taught colonial children about space navigation and helped design better farming equipment. It was a good life, even if it wasn't the one he had planned. Lisa Parker had married Tony Martinez, the assistant engineer who had helped with the power transfers to the Veltar ship. They lived in the capital city of New Angeles, where Lisa designed civilian ships and Tony worked on atmospheric processors. They often talked about their time with the aliens and wondered if humanity would ever encounter them. Again, Amy Rodriguez had become one of the leading xenobiology experts in human space, even though her most important research remained classified. She gave lectures to packed auditoriums about the possibility of alien life, always careful to speak in hypotheticals. Her students admired her passion for the subject. Never knowing she was drawing from real experience, Helen Brooks had written several textbooks on alien communication theory that were used throughout human space. Her work was considered brilliant and innovative, based on what her colleagues assumed were computer simulations. She continued to refine the Veltar translation protocols, keeping them updated and ready for use. Rick Adams had retired early from military service and opened a security consulting business. He trained corporate security teams and helped design protection systems for colonial settlements. The work was less exciting than military service, but he was content with his quiet life. Kate Sullivan had become the chief medical officer at New Columbia's main hospital. She used the medical knowledge she had learned from Veltar healers to develop new treatments, always attributing her innovations to theoretical research rather than alien contact. Ben Collins had saved enough money from his commercial navigation work to buy his own small cargo ship. He ran supplies to remote mining stations and research outposts, enjoying the freedom of being his own boss. Sometimes he would plot courses through the region where they had encountered the Veltar, hoping to see their distinctive crystal ships. Again, all of them had moved on with their lives, but none of them forgot the choice they had made in the depths of space. They had risked everything to save strangers, and even though it had cost them their military careers, they were proud of what they had done. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries, and somewhere out there, 300 Veltar were alive, because a group of humans had chosen compassion over caution. That knowledge sustained them through the quiet years that followed, even when they wondered if their sacrifice had been worth the price they had paid. The alert came through Colonial Command's communication network at exactly 347 hours Earth Standard Time. Deep space monitoring stations along humanity's frontier had detected something unprecedented, a massive fleet of unknown vessels approaching human territory in perfect formation. Admiral Frank Watson was pulled from his sleep by the emergency call and rushed to Colonial Command headquarters. The Situation Room was already buzzing with activity as officers tried to make sense of what their sensors were telling them. The fleet was enormous, easily over 200 ships, all using technology that human instruments could barely track. "How long until they reach our outer settlements?" Watson asked the duty officer. "At current speed, approximately 18 hours, sir," came the reply. "They're not trying to hide their approach. In fact, they seem to want us to see them coming." Watson studied the tactical display showing the approaching fleet. The ships were unlike anything in human records, all curves and flowing lines that seemed almost organic. Their energy signatures were off the charts, indicating technology far beyond human capabilities. Have they responded to any communication attempts? No, sir, they're maintaining radio silence. But, Admiral, there's something else. The ship configurations match some classified files from 2 years ago. Watson felt his stomach drop as he realized what the officer was implying. The Veltar incident had been buried so deep that most people didn't even know it had happened. But now it looked like the aliens Jake Morrison and his crew had saved were coming back, and they had brought friends. Get me Captain Morrison immediately, Watson ordered. I don't care where he is or what he's doing. Find him now. Jake Morrison was milking cows on his farm when the military transport landed in his backfield. He knew immediately that something big was happening. The Colonial Defense Force didn't send armed shuttles to collect farmers unless the situation was desperate. The young lieutenant who approached his barn looked nervous. Captain Morrison? Admiral Watson needs you at Colonial Command immediately. It's about the Veltar, sir. Jake felt his heart start racing. He had wondered for 2 years if he would ever see the aliens again. Now it looked like he was about to find out. Maria helped him pack a quick bag while the shuttle crew waited impatiently. What do you think this is about? Maria asked as she handed him his old uniform. I don't know, Jake replied honestly, but I have a feeling our quiet life just came to an end. The flight to Colonial Command took 6 hours. During the trip, Jake learned about the approaching alien fleet from the shuttle crew. 200 ships was an invasion force by any reasonable standard, but something about the situation didn't feel threatening to Jake. The Veltar he had met had been peaceful traders, not warriors. When Jake arrived at headquarters, he found his old crew already assembling. Lisa Parker had been pulled away from her ship designs, Amy Rodriguez from her research, Helen Brooks from her teaching duties. Ben Collins, Rick Adams, and Kate Sullivan were all there too, looking as confused and worried as Jake felt. Admiral Watson briefed them quickly on the situation. The alien fleet had entered human space and was maintaining a steady course toward Earth. They hadn't responded to any communication attempts, but they also hadn't shown any hostile intentions. The Colonial Defense Force was preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. We need people who have actually dealt with these aliens before, Watson explained. You're the only humans who have ever spoken to them. If this turns into a diplomatic situation, you'll be our best hope of avoiding a war. Jake and his crew were rushed aboard the fastest ship available, a military cruiser called the Defender. As they traveled toward the approaching alien fleet, Helen Brooks worked frantically to set up her Veltar translation equipment. It had been 2 years since she had used the alien language protocols, but she hoped they would still work. Amy Rodriguez reviewed everything she could remember about Veltar biology and culture, trying to prepare for what might be a very different kind of encounter than their first meeting. Lisa Parker studied the energy readings from the alien ships. Amazed by the power levels they were detecting, the two fleets met at the edge of human space, near a small mining station called Outpost 7. Jake stood on the Defender's bridge as dozens of crystalline alien ships filled the viewing screen. They were even more beautiful than he remembered, their hulls glowing with patterns of light that pulsed like slow heartbeats. Captain Morrison, Admiral Watson said over the communication link from his flagship, you're authorized to attempt contact. Try to find out what they want. Helen Brooks activated her translation equipment and sent a standard greeting message to the alien fleet. For several tense minutes, there was no response. Then the communication system crackled to life with the musical sound of Veltar language. Greetings to the humans of the vessel New Horizon and Captain Jake Morrison, the familiar voice said, in perfect English. The Veltar Consortium brings greetings and seeks audience with the ones who showed kindness to strangers in the void. Jake felt tears forming in his eyes as he recognized the voice of Prime Navigator Zethkal. This is Captain Jake Morrison. Zethkal, is that really you? It is indeed, friend Jake Morrison. We have traveled far to find your people and bring them greetings from the consortium. May we meet again as we did before? Admiral Watson's voice cut into the conversation. Captain Morrison, what are they talking about? What consortium? Jake looked at his crew and saw the same excitement and confusion in their faces that he was feeling. "Admiral, I think we're about to learn that our first contact with the Veltar was more significant than we realized." The largest alien ship moved closer to the human fleet, and Jake watched a familiar shuttle emerge from its crystalline hull. This time, however, the shuttle was escorted by dozens of other small craft, all glowing with the distinctive Veltar light patterns. As the alien delegation approached the human ships, Jake tried to prepare himself for whatever revelations were coming. The Veltar had clearly not forgotten the humans who had saved them, but why had they brought such a massive fleet? What was this consortium they mentioned? Helen Brooks was receiving continuous communications from the alien ships now, all in languages she didn't recognize. "Captain, they're not all Veltar," she reported with excitement. "I'm detecting at least a dozen different alien languages. This isn't just a Veltar fleet." Amy Rodriguez was studying the biological readings from the various ships and confirmed Helen's assessment. "I'm reading multiple species, Captain. Some are similar to the Veltar, but others are completely different. There are beings aboard those ships unlike anything we've ever imagined." Jake felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders. Humanity was about to encounter not just one alien species, but many. Whatever was happening here would change the course of human civilization forever. "Admiral Watson," Jake said into his communicator, "I recommend we prepare to receive a large diplomatic delegation. I think the Veltar have brought some friends to meet us." As the alien shuttles approached the human ships, Jake wondered what his simple act of kindness 2 years ago had set in motion. He had saved 300 aliens from certain death, never dreaming that this rescue might be the first step towards something much larger. The galaxy, it seemed, was about to become a much more crowded and interesting place for humanity. Jake Morrison and his crew had opened a door they never knew existed, and now they were about to walk through it into a future none of them could have imagined. The diplomatic meeting took place aboard the human flagship Defender, in the largest conference room the ship had available. Jake Morrison stood beside Admiral Watson as dozens of alien beings entered the room, representing species that humanity had never dreamed existed. Prime Navigator Zethkal led the delegation, his familiar crystalline features glowing with what Jake had learned to recognize as Veltar happiness. Behind him came beings that defied description. Tall creatures that looked like living plants, small furry aliens with 6 arms and multiple eyes, beings made of what appeared to be living metal, and others so strange that human minds struggled to process their appearance. "Captain Jake Morrison," Zethkal said, approaching with arms spread in the Veltar gesture of greeting. "It brings great joy to see you again and to finally meet your leaders." Jake introduced Admiral Watson and the rest of the human delegation, including his original crew from the New Horizon. Each alien species had representatives present, and Helen Brooks worked frantically to keep up with the multiple translation protocols needed for communication. "Zethkal," Jake said, "we're honored by your visit, but I have to ask why you've brought such a large fleet to human space. Our people are naturally concerned about your intentions." The Veltar navigators' light patterns shifted to what Jake remembered as amusement. "Your concern is understandable, friend Jake Morrison, but these ships do not come as conquerors, they come as welcomers. The consortium has decided to extend an invitation to humanity." "What consortium?" Admiral Watson asked, his military bearing making him direct and somewhat suspicious. A new alien stepped forward, one of the plant-like beings with flowing fronds instead of hair and bark-textured skin. When it spoke, its voice was like rustling leaves. "I am Grove Singer Thamel of the Botanical Collective. The Galactic Trade Consortium has existed for over 50,000 of your years, connecting hundreds of species in peaceful commerce and cultural exchange." Amy Rodriguez could barely contain her excitement as she realized the magnitude of what they were hearing. Hundreds of alien species working together for 50,000 years. It was beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. Another alien spoke, this one resembling a large insect with iridescent wings and compound eyes. "I am Hivemind Skasthar of the Chitinous Unity. The consortium spans this entire arm of the galaxy. linking worlds in trade, knowledge sharing, and mutual protection. Jake felt overwhelmed by the scope of what these aliens were describing. You're saying there's been a galactic civilization operating all this time and humanity never knew about it? Your species has been observed for many years, Zethkal explained gently. The consortium maintains careful watch over developing species, waiting to see if they possess the qualities necessary for membership. What qualities? Admiral Watson asked. A new voice answered, coming from one of the metallic beings whose form seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. Compassion for strangers, willingness to sacrifice for others, the ability to see beyond, immediate self-interest to the greater good of all sentient life. Jake felt a chill run down his spine as he began to understand what the alien was implying. The distress call 2 years ago, when we found your damaged ship ... was a test, Zethkal confirmed, his light patterns showing what Jake now recognized as deep respect. The consortium has used such tests for millennia to evaluate species seeking membership. Most fail. Lisa Parker spoke up from her position beside Jake. You mean your ship wasn't really damaged by pirates? The damage was real, Zethkal assured her. But it was created deliberately by consortium observers. The scenario was designed to present your species with a choice: help strangers at great personal cost or choose self-preservation over compassion. Rick Adams shook his head in amazement. You were testing us the whole time? Grove Singer Thimel's fronds rustled with what might have been approval. The test extended beyond the initial rescue. We monitored how your crew treated our people. During the repair process, whether you showed respect for our differences, and how you shared your resources without expecting payment. Your people passed every evaluation, Hivemind Skastar added. Most species show some kindness to strangers in distress, but few are willing to risk their own survival for beings they have never seen before. Fewer still maintain that generosity over weeks of dangerous, difficult work. Jake looked at his crew and saw the same amazement in their faces that he was feeling. Their simple decision to help people in need had been the final exam for humanity's admission to a galactic community they hadn't even known existed. The metallic being flowed closer to the human delegation. I am Flux State Meridian of the Metamorphic Collective. Your species has demonstrated the moral character required for consortium membership. We offer you full partnership in our civilization. Admiral Watson struggled to maintain his composure as the implications hit him. What exactly does that mean? Zethkal gestured to the viewing port where the massive alien fleet waited patiently. Access to technologies that will revolutionize your civilization. Medical advances that can extend life and eliminate disease. Manufacturing techniques that can end scarcity. Star map showing thousands of habitable worlds ready for colonization. Amy Rodriguez could barely speak. The scientific knowledge alone, learning from hundreds of different species... Your Dr. Rodriguez will be offered the position of humanity's first xenobiology exchange coordinator, Grove Singer Thymel announced. She will have access to biological data from every member species, accumulated over 50 millennia of study. Lisa Parker gasped as Flux State Meridian addressed her directly. Chief Engineer Parker, you will be invited to serve as Integration Coordinator, helping to adapt consortium technologies for human use while contributing your own innovations to our collective knowledge. Helen Brooks was offered a position as Cultural Liaison, helping to facilitate communication between humanity and the hundreds of alien species in the consortium. Ben Collins was invited to join the Galactic Navigation Guild, mapping new routes between distant stars. Kate Sullivan was offered a place in the Consortium Medical Council, learning healing techniques from across the galaxy. And Captain Morrison, Zethkal said, turning to Jake with deep respect, you will be offered command of the first human ship designed with consortium technology to explore regions of the galaxy that no human has ever seen. Jake felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was being offered. I don't understand. All we did was help some people in trouble. The plant-like alien's fronds stirred gently. That simple act of compassion has opened the galaxy to your entire species, Captain Morrison. The consortium values character above technology, wisdom above strength, and kindness above conquest. Admiral Watson finally found his voice. What would membership in this consortium mean for humanity's independence? Complete autonomy over your internal affairs, Hive Mind Skasthar assured him. The consortium is not a government but a voluntary association. Members trade freely, share knowledge willingly, and cooperate by choice, not compulsion. Your species will retain full control over your worlds and your destiny, Flux State Meridian added. The consortium exists to enhance the capabilities of member species, not to control them. Jake looked around the room at the incredible variety of alien life forms, all of them here because his crew had chosen compassion over caution 2 years ago. The decision they had made in the depths of space, the choice that had nearly cost them their careers, had earned humanity a place among the stars that no amount of military might could have achieved. There's one thing I need to know, Jake said to Zethkal. If we had chosen differently that day, if we had left you to die while we went for help, then this meeting would never have taken place, the Veltar navigator replied sadly. Your species would have remained isolated, unknown to the greater galactic community, until perhaps one day developing the wisdom necessary for membership through your own growth. Rick Adams shook his head in wonder. So our careers being ruined. The classified files, the official denial that first contact ever happened, was your government's attempt to maintain the secret until this moment, Zethkal confirmed. They were contacted by the consortium shortly after our first meeting and asked to keep the encounter classified until humanity could be properly evaluated. Amy Rodriguez laughed with amazement. So Earth Command knew about the consortium all along? Only a very few individuals, Admiral Watson admitted. I was briefed after your return but sworn to absolute secrecy. We had to be sure humanity could handle the truth about our place in the galaxy. As the meeting continued, Jake Morrison realized that his simple act of kindness had not only saved 300 alien lives, but had transformed the entire future of human civilization. The favor they had done for strangers in the void had been repaid with the keys to the galaxy itself. The reward had indeed astonished everyone, most of all the humans who had earned it without ever knowing they were being tested. In choosing compassion over caution, humanity had proven itself worthy of wonders beyond imagination.